Hello and welcome. My name is Emma Roselyn, and I'm sitting here in the studio with Elly Vandegrift, who's the director of the Global Studies Institute at the University of Oregon. Elly's career, with its roots in forest ecology, has spanned many, many different disciplines and is driven by a continuing theme of curiosity and engagement with wonder and what we have left to learn about our world, one another, and how we be here together. Elly, I'm so grateful that you are joining us today. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you, Emma. It's lovely to be here.
So, Elly, your background is in forest ecology. Can you tell me a little bit about how a forest ecologist came to be the director of the Global Studies Institute at the University of Oregon?
It actually feels a little bit like coming full circle to me. When I went to college at Earlham College, I went into school thinking I was going to be a peace and global studies major. And my very first class in college was a biology class. And on that very first day, our faculty introduced themselves. And one of them was studying spiders in Puerto Rico, and another one studying turtles in Nebraska, and another one studying iguanas in the Bahamas, and then trees in Wisconsin. And I was enthralled because it was so different than the biology that I had experienced in high school. And it was real, and it was exciting, and it was learning about how the world works and how different, seemingly non-related pieces of the world actually come together. I spent a semester abroad in Kenya. I did wildlife biology research there. I also had the great privilege of spending a May term program in the Galapagos Islands. I did a water wilderness program in Canada. So even early on, even though I was majoring in biology, I really had this global focus in my research. I went to graduate school at Oregon State in a forest ecology lab where I studied decomposing roots and logs in Oregon forests. And the real connection that I see across all of this type of research is wanting to understand how the world works and how pieces fit together and what's the story. I also worked in the Teaching and Learning Center at the University of Oregon supporting study skills development for science students. And then I was hired as the associate director of the science literacy program at the University of Oregon, where I had the honor of supporting faculty across the sciences improve their teaching and teaching some biology along the way myself. And I loved being in the classroom and these aha moments of some idea that students didn't understand, and it would suddenly click for them. And they'd say, "Oh, I get that." And it felt to me like that kind of discovery that I had as a young researcher trying out these different kinds of fields of research. For me, it was a really natural move into educational development and some education research. You mentioned that I had done some work on metacognition, which is really this idea of how do we know what we're learning? How do we learn what we learn? And for me, then, it's a big full circle back to thinking about global experiences, about research, and tying those all together. I realized that we need to study things that have huge societal impacts, such as understanding fertilizer or the impact that fertilizer has on crops, or understanding climate change. That's part of the way that research works, is that one person does some part of the discovery and then another person builds on that, says, I really was interested in this paper that I read. What can I learn next? And then what can I learn next? And let me take it over to this field and that other field too.
What does the Global Studies Institute offer to the community here at the University of Oregon campus?
So the Global Studies Institute, when I think about it, we have 4 words that really encapsulate what we do: research, innovation, impact, and worldwide. Practically, what that means is that we provide a variety of services for campus researchers. One is that we support internationally focused research grants. So these could be grants that are U.S. federally based, or they could be from international entities, partners, foundations for researchers at the University of Oregon. We host several faculty research centers. So some of them include the UNESCO Crossings Institute for Investigative Reporting, with a group of students who go every year to World Press Freedom Day and learn about the struggles that journalists around the globe face. We also have a Center for Global Hearth. We have a faculty member involved in that program who's studying houselessness here in Eugene. We are part of the Association of Pacific Rim Universities, the Sustainable Cities and Landscape program, which brings together research universities from, I think it's 25 institutions around the Pacific Rim right now, to look at how do we make our cities more livable and sustainable? What's the interaction between humans and the natural environment and the built environment? So there's all of these examples are thinking about these webs and these connections and these networks that remind me a lot of the interconnectedness of forests. Some of the researchers are part of the faculty research centers. We've also had faculty who've worked with us who are not part of one of the faculty research centers. So the whole life of grant administration, from finding a grant and matchmaking to being able to make sure that we're meeting the goals of the grant. We also provide internal funding for U of O students and faculty. We have a Global Oregon Research Awards. These are for travel for graduate students, undergrads, and faculty to go abroad to support their research. And we support events. We do event management. It's something globally focused, and a faculty member on campus has needed an administrative home that can help support an event. And so we've helped with events. One of the new capacities that we have in addition to grant management is to help support matching faculty with research opportunities, with funding opportunities. So if we know a little bit about faculty's research, we can start to say, oh, look, there's this foundation or there's this funding agency. These look like really good matches for a particular person's work. I'm hopeful that through this podcast series, you'll hear from some of those people who you've been working with as they can start to tell their stories, too, of the amazing work that they're doing here on campus and around the world.
So I hear you thinking on a longer time scale when it comes to bringing people together for events. What you speak to in terms of like the before, during, and after, I can see how that maps onto this idea of creating a web or a network where we're creating more opportunities for engagement and relationship building over time. Could you talk to me a little bit about an event that comes to mind where you saw that happening in real time and how that came about, or even how it's still unfolding today?
Absolutely. Last year, my first academic year in this director role, we hosted a lunch for people who had engaged with the Global Studies Institute. So this included people who were part of our faculty research centers. It included people who've gone on trips that have been part of the Global Studies Institutes. There were faculty who had stayed in a flat that we manage in London so that U of O researchers can go and do research in London. It included faculty who've either hosted or have had visitors stay in our Spencer View apartments, which is a place that international visitors can stay relatively inexpensively in Eugene. Faculty who've received Global Oregon Faculty Collaboration Funds, which are larger seed grants that allow faculty to write a grant proposal or write a manuscript with a collaborator. Faculty travel funds that have allowed faculty to travel internationally to conferences or do field work. Yeah. And then undergraduate and graduate student awards too, through Oregon Center for Translation Studies and the Center for Global Hearth, the Association of Pacific Rim University Sustainable Cities and Landscape Conference, and then Global Oregon Student Travel Funds.
And these are all funds that the Global Studies Institute manages that are available to university faculty from University of Oregon staff and faculty that they can access to be able to do the work in the world that they want to do.
Yes, and graduate students and undergraduate students as well. So it's really a broad range of people who were in the room. On that day, we had representatives of every college across campus, and there's not always spaces where that happens. And the common thread was that people have global engagement. They have global partnerships. They have interest in doing global research. That was the common thread. So one of our colleagues in the Center for Applied Second Language Studies, who in that center, they really think about games and also creating networks, how to bring people together in the work. So collaboratively, we created a game that participants then played over lunch. And what I loved was that the before was that people had engaged somehow with the Global Studies Institute. And the during was that they started to see that they weren't the only individuals on campus who had engaged with the Global Studies Institute. And then the after, we're still working on the after. The after is that those in attendance know that there's other ways to engage with the Global Studies Institute. The after is that we had some really interesting conversations that we're now following up on. What's a grant proposal? Or is there a gift that might come out of this? Or is there a contract to do additional work that's going to come out of the people who are in that room? I'm reminded of tying it back into your question about forest ecology also. My graduate advisor has a 200-year log decomposition study. It's in the H.J. Andrews Experimental Forest here in Eugene. So what Mark Harmon knows is that he's doing a piece of this, and then other researchers will do the next piece of what's happening to these logs in a forest. And I kind of feel as though this work is like that too. We're setting the stage, we're bringing people together. It's not all going to happen today, but it'll happen next year or the year after, 200 years from now.
It's funny when you say play, when I think of a gathering of academics, play is not necessarily the first thing to pops into my mind. Can you tell me a little bit about why play was central to this event?
Yes, in fall of 2024, we were kind of thinking that there was a lot of seriousness around each of us individually, around our universities as a whole. And creating a space to build community means having something that we share in common. And play can be a good way to share that something in common. Create a little bit of joy, a little bit of spontaneity, a little bit of curiosity. I think for me, all of those are elements of building community. And I think building community leads to resiliency, and it leads to creating or discovering new ideas that we didn't know were there. My ultimate hope would be that people who are in that room together would discover somebody who felt like a kindred spirit to them, who maybe studies in a different disciplinary area, but that we could get to a point where we could see two people from different colleges actually have a lot in common, and they would then want to seek out new research, new ideas, new discovery in an area that they hadn't yet explored.
How do you create an atmosphere where people feel safe to learn and to grow and to try new things on and play with new material or meet people that their first impression, they don't necessarily know what they have in common, but upon a little further investigation or discovery, there's actually a lot that they share?
I think that there are some small things that have a really big impact, and they can be translated into a classroom, and I think that they can be translated into our research communities as well. One of them is using a name tags or name tents of some kind where people have their name with them, and then asking people to share something about themselves that's not too personal, but it's enough to say, I see you, I recognize that you are a fellow human. One of them is, what did you want to be when you were a kid? What was that dream job that you had? And often it's a safe enough question that people can share, I had this dream and aspiration. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was really little. And that's not the direction that I went, but it's something that I can share with people. And then I think you build on and you layer on, and you can demonstrate that making mistakes is okay. So again, in this workshop, we ask a variety of questions where there's no right answer and demonstrate that kind of no right answer. And then even when there's questions that there is a right answer, we take time to create them in such a way that it's hard to get the right answer because it's complicated enough and it pulls from a lot of different threads. Again, practicing that safety comes in different ways. As I'm saying this, I'm thinking about research and the type of research that I hope that we can support in the Global Studies Institute, there's also no one right answer. And that's part of what we're supporting is this discovery. There are some things that we think might have application, but there's other things that we don't know what it's going to look like. They may not know what that next phase of research is going to be. In fact, I would be surprised if coming in, everyone knew where their next direction was going to be, but creating a space where people can come together and be in a room together is empowering.
There's something in there about kind of like a willingness to tolerate discomfort or unknowing. I'm thinking about kind of, again, intercultural communication and dialogue. And can you tell us about what originally took you to Saudi Arabia? I know you spent some time there.
Absolutely. So it's been one of the greatest honors and privilege of my professional and personal life to get to work with Dr. Aisha Al-mana, who is a graduate of the University of Oregon and also the founder of a college in Saudi Arabia. And hopefully soon she'll be the founder of several other colleges as well. But she really took to heart this idea of feminism and making sure that women and girls in Saudi Arabia have freedom of education and freedom of movement. So I first went to the kingdom to work on a curricular redesign project at the college that she was the president and the CEO and the founder of this college. It was one of the most profound teaching and learning experiences that I'd ever had, sitting in a classroom and watching students be so excited to answer questions about physics. And it was just this moment of like, oh, education is contagious. It's powerful. And Dr. Aisha always says, you can find a crack and you just keep pounding away at that crack. And so she has demonstrated through her actions, really through showing that you can make profound change. So the work that originally took me to Saudi Arabia was to support curricular design at her college. And this was also through the Global Studies Institute. Dr. Aisha has endowed a scholarship that will provide for students from Saudi Arabia to start their education in the kingdom and then finish at the University of Oregon. And working with her is a moment of really needing to listen and understand cultural expectations and cultural norms and my own expectations that I'm bringing. And there was at one point, Dr. Aisha told me that she wanted a baby that walked and talked. And it took us a while to figure out what she meant by that and then how I was interpreting that. And it was really, she wanted us to deliver a product that was made and done. And so trusting somebody enough to be able to have a conversation and say, you're not giving me the baby that walks and talks, and me saying, I don't know what that means. And being able to get to a point of a real understanding so that whatever you're building together is beautiful. Building beautiful things out of dust. There's dust there. You don't know how it's going to go together, but you can take all the pieces and put them together by listening and being patient and stepping aside from your own expectations about how the world is going to work. You asked me about like travel, and with travel, there's so much of a tolerance for ambiguity. And I think that that's actually true in our lives here in Oregon and the United States as well. We just have to have a tolerance for ambiguity. So how do we build resiliency into that so that when a new curveball comes our way, we can keep going? And so we hosted Dr. Aisha to do an event because it felt to me like it was such an important opportunity to highlight and showcase another type of the ways that Global Studies Institute does work in the world, which is building these deep, meaningful relationships with our partners, alumni, universities, foundations, and other parts of the world so that we are collaboratively doing work together that's meaningful for us and is meaningful for our partners. It's not extractive, but it's collaboratively created.
Thank you for saying that. And I'm thinking about it also in terms of, I think for many people in younger generations, we're looking at a world and we're looking for leaders and we're looking for like who's been there and done that and actually who knows how to affect the kind of change that we want to see in the world. And to think about from a partnership that the Global Studies Institute is stewarding, that a memoir that's as powerful as Dr. Aisha's is now available for young people all over the world who can learn from someone who not only has wisdom, but is coming from someone who has transmuted, alchemized their own life experience and difficulty into real wisdom that can affect future generations. That's like a tangible impact that this research and this work is having for generations yet to come, that we get to learn from that wisdom and lived experience. I kind of want to turn our conversation to current events a little bit. There's a lot of critique of American universities coming from all directions. What would you say to folks who are critical of higher education right now?
The work that we do and the work that we support has real impact on people and the future of individuals and communities, whole countries. I'm thinking, for example, that we have two colleagues who are psychology professors who study neurocognitive development, and they're specifically looking in instances where there are babies who don't have enough of a B vitamin, which leads to pretty serious neurological and developmental delays. So if you have a mama who has a baby with a developmental delay, that might take her out of the workforce. And if she's taken out of the workforce, that might have impacts on the economic stability of her family. And that might impact her other children and perhaps their ability to go to school. And if you have a whole community where you have many women who are out of the workforce, the long-term economic gains for that community, that region, that country could be impacted. So the work that we do, this is work that's directly for our global society. We're all in this together. That work supports that one mama and that one baby, but it has significant ripple effects out from that one person.
All right, Elly, you ready for a quick fire?
I'm ready for a quick fire.
What is one practice that informs your daily work? What keeps you motivated?
I do yoga almost every day, and I've had a group of friends who we've texted each other almost every day for years. Yoga. That grounding keeps me motivated.
Wow, cool. What is one resource that you wish more people knew about?
Oh, I wish more people knew about the funding the Global Studies Institute has and can support faculty in finding.
Why does research matter?
Because we don't know what we're going to learn. And if we come into this world with more curiosity, wow, what are we going to discover and learn about ourselves, about other people, about the planet? Oh, it's so exciting. That's why it matters. There's so many cool questions to ask.
Why do global partnerships matter?
Because we come up with even better ideas. We see the world through different lenses. We learn things that we never knew existed when we work with others around the globe. It also expands our ability to sit and listen and be wrong.
Last question, Elly Vandegrift. What's your favorite fact about trees?
My favorite fact about trees, I don't know if it's a fact, but I love Oregon forests, and I love this opportunity to sit on a really beautiful summer day under a canopy of trees and look up and see all the different colors, and to think about the fact that those trees are taking the sunlight and turning it into their sugar, into their food source. And that's such an amazing connection from the light to all these beautiful trees that we have here in our Oregon forests.
Okay. I'd like to read a poem. This is a poem from Honor the Messenger, Poems for Journalists in Danger, which was compiled for the Extra Don't Shoot conference that the Global Studies Institute organized last year in 2024. And it's by Kim Stafford, who is a former poet laureate of Oregon State. Meeting halfway. Behold this empty space between your certainty and mine, this arena of sunlight free of claim and counterclaim, this bright meadow where no one has shouted, bullied, or begged, where butterflies are sovereign, where birdsong is our legislation, where you and I could walk out into the open, look around, and speak. First of the children, then of our dreams, and only then of the work we will do together.
That is beautiful. I think it really encapsulates some of the ways that the Global Studies Institute, what we're doing here, we do this work together. There's a lot of other things happening in that poem, but somehow we have to all be here together to do the work together. And I hope that's the kind of space and kind of community that we can create.
Thank you, Elly Vandegrift, Director of the Global Studies Institute at the University of Oregon. We're so grateful to have you here with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Emma. It's been a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you to our student producer, Ellie Johnson. Thank you to the director of the Global Studies Institute, Elly Vandegrift, and our GSI team members, Megan Bogart and Hadil Abdelmaid. Thank you to Dean and Vice Provost of the Division of Global Engagement, Dennis Galvan, for your support and your encouragement throughout this project. Thank you to Sam Para for your work on the podcast artwork, as well as marketing and communications support. Thank you to our sound design and audio mastering interns, Journey Brinson and Julian Green. Thank you to the SOJC production studio, especially John Sharpie. Major thanks to composer Joe Kai, who composed our Global Hearth theme song. Many thanks to John Bologna, Charlie Dietz, Steve Rogers, Christopher Deredix, Peter Laufer, and Chris Chavez, and the Don't Shoot the Journalist team for concept development support. Thank you to former Oregon Poet Laureate Kim Stafford for your beautiful poetry. And most of all, thank you to you, our listeners, for your time and your caring attention. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can follow us on social media. We'll link it in the show notes. Please send any questions or comments to gsi@uoregon.edu. That's gsi@uoregon.edu. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again at the Global Hearth, same time next week.